Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be providing a very in-depth analysis on Solana and going over my thoughts on where it is headed throughout the next few weeks and months. So if you are new to the channel and you want to show some support, please leave a like and subscribe. So the first thing I want to talk about is how we have a pretty strong bounce off the current low in place. The low set in place was around $26, and from today's price action, we are up around 45%. So obviously it's doing very well in the short term. We're seeing a pretty strong bounce off of this area at 26 cents, and we would like to see this continue and maybe some follow through. If I kind of direct your attention to this band of moving averages, the green one is the 21-week exponential moving average, and then the red one is the 20-week simple moving average. So together they form this band, and historically they have been pretty good at identifying some bull and bear phases. So you can see when we're above it, it's a pretty positive look for Solana, and you can see how that generally leads to a continuation of an uptrend. And when we do have these corrections, such as the one in May, we come back down to this band and hold it as support, and we can see some pretty nice bounces off of it. So from the closing price in May, we bounced approximately 95%, and then we had one candle close up below it, which was kind of a warning sign, but we quickly reclaimed it, so that was all fine, and then we continued on to this new all-time high. And then you can see the candles just before we broke below it, we had two green candles trying to hold it as support, trying to bounce off, and then we broke below it. And you can see this very important and very key rejection in the end of March. We had basically this lower low being formed, a retest of these moving averages, and then a pretty strong rejection. So the reason I'm talking about how historically this is an important band to look at is because, if we continue this bounce and we see some follow through, most likely we will be testing it at some point or another. And consider that it is moving down at a pretty quick pace. So if I extend out its current rate of decline, you can see that, in middle of July it could be at $61, and then if we go to middle of August it could be at $45. So just consider that it is moving down quite quickly, and we could see price action come up and retest it sometime in the near future. So maybe we continue this bounce and really just retest it, say at $60 in the middle of July. This is just hypothetical, but if we do, then there's going to be a very key interaction with these moving averages, and whether or not we're able to break above it and hold it as support will ultimately dictate whether or not I believe the bottom is in. So if we have some sort of price action where we are able to get back above it and then hold it as support and start consolidating, something like this would be extremely bullish for Solana, and it would lead me to believe that we're going to be starting a new uptrend with this low in place, and maybe we're going to maybe consolidate around this range and start trending back up and forming a different trend counter to this pretty strong downtrend that brought us down about 90 or so percent. Yeah, so if we do reclaim it, that's an extremely bullish sign, and that's going to be a sign that I'm going to be looking out for in order to kind of dictate whether or not I'm excited about Solana, or if I think this downtrend is still in place. But if we do reject off of it, maybe we come up and then we start to consolidate below it and start really rejecting off of it and coming back down, then in the event that this happens, then I would expect a continuation of this downtrend, and at the very, very least, a retest of this low. So we could do something like this where we double bottom, or we could take out this low and continue lower. But the thing about this low is that it's just above some very key support ranges. So if we go back to May and the summer of 2021, we can see how this low here around $24 was the range that we held as support for quite a while. So if I zoom in here and I go onto a daily time frame, just to show you, you can see how this was a very, very strong support area. We had this first initial support in April. We came up, we formed this new all-time high, and then following this capitulation that was primarily led by Bitcoin going down to $30,000, we had another retest of this zone, which again ranges from 22 all the way up to $25. And we had another retest. It held as support, we bounced, we held it as support once again, And then we retested it for a fourth time and it held as support. So this was an extremely strong level of support that held in the summer of 2021. And if you recall, most altcoins actually did not hold their support areas and made lower lows. So the fact that Solana was able to do this kind of illustrated how it had that relative strength and it was doing very well and it had some pretty strong support. So if we do retest this 20-week simple moving average, and we do start to come back down, then I would expect this area from $22 to $25 to hold as support. This is a very strong support area, and most likely I don't expect this to be lost. I don't expect this to be broken, especially considering how we have more support just below it at $19. This was the high in February of 2021. I'm going to go back to a daily chart to zoom in here to show you how, this was a pretty key resistance here. In February, we had a strong rally starting in December, and then this was kind of the first area where we had resistance, and following this resistance we started to consolidate for approximately 1 month. So this was a very important level then, and it's support in the event that we do wick below this area in green. But in general, I think that Solana at $20, anywhere from $20 to $25 is a pretty phenomenal region to accumulate for a longer term perspective. And I'm quite excited on Solana from a macro perspective as far as cycles go. Not just because it's at a pretty extreme discount, and in general, I'm pretty excited about Solana considering how it has NFTs, and really it has a pretty remarkable amount of volume as far as NFTs go. So this is important because whether you appreciate NFTs or not, the fact that they do have a pretty large amount of volume on their NFT platforms is pretty good for the overall project of Solana, because it brings in more user activity. It brings in activity to those decentralized exchanges. It brings in users to use those decentralized applications, and overall it's a very net positive thing for the network. And I think that, given how strong these communities are in Solana, it just goes to show you how this most likely won't be one of those altcoins that just never recovers, never sees the light of day again. I think Solana is going to be a pretty good performer, all things considered, for the next cycle. So I'm excited about Solana. I'm interested in it anywhere from this $20 to $25 range. That's where I'm going to be DCAing in and starting to accumulate. So now I'm going to switch over to the Solana Bitcoin chart, which tells a pretty similar story from this band of moving averages, where we can see some pretty defined support and pretty defined resistance. So if we go back to July of 2021, there was a very key important retest of these moving averages that held as support. So following the retest of these moving averages as support, we were able to continue this longer term rally, and actually from this retest we bounced about 375%. So when we broke below these moving averages, we formed another lower low similar to the USD pair, and then we came back up and retested. And you can see this very important and very key rejection here. And really it just goes to show you how this band flips from support to resistance. So if we retest this again as resistance, then I would expect no different than this prior rejection, where we come back down, we retest the prior low, and then from there, whether we're able to hold that or not ultimately dictates the path forward. So I would expect a retest of this moving average on the Solana Bitcoin pair, and really if we are able to reclaim that and hold it as support, that's the same thing for the Solana USD pair. That would be very bullish. That would be very positive for Solana, and vice versa. If we have another rejection, then I would expect at the very retest a low of this area at 0.001. And again, this was kind of resistance and the range high of this consolidation phase in the summer of 2021. We can see how we had this first test of this on May 17th, and then we had another test of it a few weeks later. But really it was about 14 weeks or so before we were able to break out of this range high and continue this uptrend. So this is a very strong support area, and obviously price action is responding well. We're seeing a pretty decent bounce off of this area and some follow through. So that's positive, and we want to look out for these moving averages in the next few weeks as some sort of resistance area to kind of watch out for. So that's the end of my Solana analysis. I hope you guys did enjoy, and as always, I will see you in the next one.